Hmm? Ah!
Well, hey there, you. Yes, I mean you. Have you just finished watching an episode of your favorite television program, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel? Are you looking for a podcast to enhance your viewing experience? Well, look no further. Welcome to Perfectly Marvelous. Join our hosts Erica, Kara, and Jade as they provide you with hours of witty banter, behind-the-scenes fun facts, and oh, so much more. Now sit back, relax, and get ready for a perfectly marvelous time. Good evening, folks. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Jade.
I'm Kara.
I'm Erica.
And this is Perfectly Marvelous, a podcast dedicated to the delightful show, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Today we are covering Season 5, Episode 7, A House Full of Extremely Lame Horses.
Extremely lame.
Lame indeed. Written and directed by Amy Sherman Palladino.
Yes. So, first, before we get into it, I gotta call out some Podcastica shows happening right now because we got a whole ton. And I know that Yellow Jackets is the main, well, I mean, it's the hot, we're all talking about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's crazy. You guys are you guys doing the after shows as well?
I did the first one, but
Yeah, you did the first one.
I haven't been able to yet.
I love watching
I really
them,
wanted
though.
to.
they're so much fun.
Fun. But that show just... Ugh.
Yeah.
You need a support group after watching that show.
Right?
You need to listen to Perfectly Marvelous podcast
There you go.
after you watch that
It's a nice
show.
palate cleanser.
Yes.
It really is. It kind of is the perfect palate cleanser. So yeah, and we also have a lot going on with Strange Indeed. My Rima and Paik. I love those two so very much. They're starting coverage of Sweet Tooth.
It's so much fun. That show, I will say, if you like anything post-apocalyptic or, you know, even just fantasy in general, give Sweet Tooth a try because I thought it looked weird as hell when I first saw it. And that show plus Rima and Paik's coverage of it is, I'm going to say, a delight. Just like Perfectly Marvelous, just a little bit darker.
Darkly delightful. Yeah, no, Rima and Paik, if you guys, listeners, if you have not listened to Strange Indeed, seriously, do yourself a favor. It is like my favorite podcast, aside from Yellow Jackets, because I will listen to anything, I will watch anything that Rima and Paik are covering. Like, so
Agreed.
when I heard that they're covering Sweet Tooth, I'm like, well, I guess I got a new show now. And like, even though it totally does not look like my thing, if they're covering it, you know, I'm going to enjoy, I just need a reason to listen to that podcast. So I got to watch the show now.
Indeed.
And we're also, we got It's Showtime, Folks, which is another podcast about movies, you know, old movies as well as new releases. And Kara, you were listening to that one. Yeah, I know, right?
I listened to their Tombstone coverage yesterday, and that's one of my favorite movies, and I ended up going back and rewatching it to fall asleep to last night. I was like, they cover new ones and old ones, and there's almost always something that they point out that I never would have noticed, so that one's a fun listen to.
Yeah, I've never seen Tombstone, but who covers that one?
I think it was Ben and Kristen?
Oh, no. Yeah, it was Ben and Kristen. You're right. Yep. They're great too. So many great hosts. I love them all. I got to watch Tombstone now so I can listen to that podcast. So yes, listeners, check it out. Check out what we got going on Podcastica. It's amazing. Go to podcastica.com. Tons of stuff there. Now, our second announcement is, it's a go for Only Murders in the Building, y'all.
Yeah.
So get prepared. We're certainly excited, and I just want to ask you, woohoo! Yes, I just want to ask you, my lovely listeners, how would you like us to go about recapping the first two seasons? Because it's got to be done, right? I mean, we got to have something for those. I'm just really looking for a reason to like podcast my ass off on that show. Like, so if people want it, I'm like, okay, and season 1 and 2, right? Like that's it's a package deal.
I think it's necessary.
I think so.
And also, Only Murders in the Building is the kind of show, like Mrs. Maisel, where whenever they come out with a new season, I get so excited to go back to the beginning, and I watch the whole thing over and go right into the 3rd season. So, yeah, so listeners, do you want us to recap that in one big, long episode, or would you like 2 episodes? Or more than 2. I don't know if I can do more than 2 because I don't know if we have time. Hopefully. We'll have to see how, the next month or 2 is looking for us. But yeah, listeners, you're a part of this. This is like a group effort. And so your opinion truly does matter so much. And I love hearing from you guys. We all love hearing from you guys. So let us know about our recapping of Only Murders in the Building. And I think that'll do it. Oh, yeah. Perfectly Marvelous is on Instagram at Perfectly Marvelous Cast. Yes. Follow us.
Yes.
Do it.
Please. Pretty please.
Follow us. It's good for your health.
Yeah. And we've been putting up, fun polls and posts and stuff like that. And this is the easiest way for us to interact with you guys.
Yeah, I put up silly little things, and there's something happened, y'all. Something happened, and if you were following us on Instagram, you saw it.
Yeah.
I kind of met Matilda Zittigis. I met Zelda, baby. I met her, and I saw her amazing. Yes, she did a show in New York City. She's an amazing director. She also has a bunch of short films available on Amazon. They're like horror films, and it's like a trilogy. It's so good.
That's cool.
Yeah, you really, listeners, go watch it. It's $1.99 for this incredible short film that she won all these awards for her short film. It's amazing. So Matilda is such a champ, and she was so fun to meet her and get a picture with her. So yes, follow us on Instagram because we have all kinds of treats like that for you listeners. Me living in New York has its perks, that's for sure. So I think that's all we got to say before we get into it. So without further ado, let's start the show, baby. Tits up.
Tits up.
Tits up.
That was me. You like me shaking my tits.
Just shimmy. I can't do that. I'll knock stuff over. It'd be pretty.
Get a concussion.
Oh, we should all be so lucky.
Oh, gosh.
Now I've this perfectly marvelous girl in my perfectly beautiful room, and we're living together and having a marvelous time.
Oh, Sally, I'm afraid it wouldn't work. You're much too...
I think Jade beat us.
Yeah, I had to go to bed at 7 p.m. the night before and then woke up at 3:30 to go do background work. And because of the writer's strike, we literally sat on the bus for hours trying to get through the picket line, and we couldn't get through.
Gosh.
And so they just turned the bus around and drove us all the way back because they bussed us from Manhattan to Jersey. And,
Wow.
Or no, not Jersey. This was upstate New York. And yeah. But we got paid for the day, which is a plus. But the sad thing is,
nice.
if the writer's strike doesn't end, then there will be like no jobs. Like, and already there's like a shortage. I can tell because I get less casting breakdowns. Like less stuff to apply for.
That reminds me, actually, so there are a couple of the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel actors and writers that we follow on Instagram, and there's been a lot of posts about the writer's strike and a lot of them showing up and protesting every day. So I know Austin Basis, who plays Alvin, the lead writer, has been sharing a lot. Jen Kirkman has been sharing a lot. Isaac Oliver has been posting a lot. So if you guys are at all curious to look into that, those are Maisel related people to check out for sure.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So before we get into the breakdown of the scenes this week, I have some stuff that I have to get off my chest from last week, because as soon as we finished recording, a million things popped into my head, and I hate when that happens when I record on an episode and then
but of course.
I literally I stop recording.
You digested and you're like, wait.
And it's like all out of all that prep time, all that time taking notes, like these questions couldn't have popped into my head. Nope. It took until after we podcasted on it. So I was like, did we gloss over the Joel and Susie stuff? You know, like I had questions about how much does Midge know about Susie's gambling habits? Like the fact that Susie never messed up with these gambling debts again in 15 years is kind of unlikely, right? And Midge says she hears things around town about like Susie is gambling and like how much fault should be placed on Midge for not further investigating your manager when people are talking about her gambling problems, you know?
She 100% had her head in the sand. Like you remember, I think way back when she gets her first paycheck on tour with Shy Baldwin, you see Susie like try to hand it to her. Is like, here you go. And Midge is like, no, I get money, I spend it. Like you are in charge of the money. So she didn't take any sort of responsibility for overlooking of it. She 100% signed it over to Susie. And it was kind of like, I don't want to deal with this. You deal with it. And so there is, you know, obviously Susie absolutely should not have done what she did. But there's got to be some sort of fault on Midge.
If not responsibility of your own money.
Right. Yeah, Midge needs to take... That's exactly what I was thinking.
Get a financial advisor.
It's like contributory negligence.
Yeah.
Which is a really obnoxious legal
lawyer
term, and I apologize. But that's what I think of. Like, she has some sort of responsibility for how this turned out. And yes, it was... And that's the other thing. Like, it was, what... the 50s and 60s. When could women open bank accounts without their husband? When could women get credit cards without, you know, their husband's signature? It wasn't until like the 70s or 80s.
Yeah,
right?
it wasn't.
Okay, wait.
Yeah, isn't that bizarre? I used to know this, and when I found out the actual specific time, I was like,
it's
it was
way
that
later
late?
than you think.
It's way later than you think, guys. It is way later than you think.
I'm Googling fast. 1974 was when the Equal Credit Opportunity Act passed, that women in the U.S. were granted the right to open a bank account on their own. Technically, women won the right to open a bank account in the 1960s, but many banks still refused to let women do so without a signature from their husbands. So that's a whole other, you know... layer of the onion. But
okay, also though, I wanted to say, like, Midge is so angry at Susie, and yet Susie had no control over what happened to Joel. Like, it was Joel's choice to get involved with the mafia, and I feel like that was completely... we didn't talk about that at all, so I just wanted to call that one out and be like, Midge, you're not doing great. Do better, Midge.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, like, I think that what I would say my prediction for the next episode last week, what it would have been, was Susie needs to come freaking clean to Midge and start with the first time that Joel bailed Susie out financially and started managing Midge's money. And also, does Midge know that for 15 years Joel has been the one really handling her money, like her financial advice, you know, that Joel is really the guy behind this whole thing?
That's the thing. That letter didn't look short that he gave her.
I know. Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm. So I would love to know what exactly was in it. And I don't know. Joel, I could see him. Obviously, we all have different perspectives, and it's influenced by our own experiences, our reality, whatever. But I could see Joel kind of trying to, you know, play it up a little bit by talking about how he did all this for her and the kids, and maybe leaving some crucial things out. He's not a huge fan of Susie, so he has no reason to try to, you know, explain away her part in it.
So this brings me to my next point of these episodes in this season feel, and I know that I'm not the only one who thinks this, I've read it all over the internet, that the season feels like weirdly disjointed because of the time jumpy thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And maybe when you binge this season, it won't feel that way, but like watching it week to week, I just feel like last time after we recorded, I had so many questions. And I wanted to carry those questions over into this week's episode. And I hoped I would get some answers. But this episode, it completely forgot. It had nothing to do with last week. Not a thing. Like, everything.
We got a couple of little tidbits, but I will say, like, I'll ask y'all too, like, my immediate reaction as this episode was ongoing while I was watching it, I was just like, is this all we're getting? Like, are we not getting anything else? And when it was finished, I was like, well, I enjoyed that, but maybe if it had been an episode in the middle of season 3 or 4. But after the high of last week's episode and how many questions were left unanswered and how many things were raised, I was just like, this is this third to last episode of the series. Like, I don't know. I'm sure we'll talk about that more, but
you're not alone. Yeah. If I had this many questions after we recorded about last week's episode, I mean, last week gave us so much. And this week, I was just shocked at I'm not complaining. Like, I still loved this episode, but it just had nothing to do with all of that stuff that I really wanted to know more about last week. And that I had all these more questions. I'm like, oh, when are we going to get answers?
I'm preparing myself to not get a lot of the answers that I'm really wanting.
Yeah. I was actually thinking, just thinking back, if somebody was so creative and wanted to try to piece together the timelines so that way it wasn't so disjointed, because it is very confusing going back and forth. But
did we have a Reddit post that they kind of laid everything out?
There was a plot. It was about like it was like a timeline of when it happened. But even with this being sandwiched in, it kind of put it back like right after George got fired.
Yeah. So, let's get into this episode this week, starting with our most marvelous moment. Kara.
Dawes.
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't that marvelous?
Okay, so my most marvelous moment, it took me a while to actually land on what I wanted to pick, but I am a little bit partial to Esther playing piano flawlessly because I started playing piano when I was 3. So I got super excited.
3? You were 3? That's insane.
I know. It's so much fun. It's like one of the best stress relieving.
I think Karen might be a long lost Weissman genius. I think that's
I know,
what it is.
right? I'm seeing it.
I will take it. But the look on Abe's face
I know.
as he processed that it was Esther, I was just like, the girl, Abe, like the girl is the one who's the genius here.
Right.
And I like how it was kind of a little bit of a, callback kind of I can't talk. What am I trying to say? Recognition. Good Lord.
Recognition. I like recognition.
Yeah, I almost said recognition. We're going to make it one. A recognition of Esther talking to the therapist back in episode 1 about how she could always talk to Grandpa and Abe. So we're seeing the beginning of their kind of, special bond. And I thought that was sweet. And it also, I appreciated it after Midge just dealt with this sexist jackass for the most part who doesn't recognize what he can do with her and the potential because he's just like, what, she's pretty and then what? So I thought it was nicely timed with the sexism that she was dealing with in this episode. So that was one of my favorite little parts.
Excellent. Erica, what you got?
I guess Kara did it. She took my marvelous moment, and I don't think I can add anything to it. I could just say this is that, what I loved about that moment, besides the fact that it was realization that Esther was the genius, but I just loved how we were able to get more Abe this episode, and I think that's what kind of so if I had to
and
pick
Rose, so much Rose, you guys know I'm happy about the
I know. So I mean, all right, so if there was another marvelous moment that had to do with Abe, it had to be him at the school with his little his snack. It was so nutty and perfect.
The snack is delicious. He was precious.
It was very delightful and adorable, and I just enjoyed it. But yeah, I agree with you completely, Kara, about that being the most marvelous moment. That it was like where he thought it was Ethan. Like he's like, it turned on.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
I loved that Tony Shalhoub's acting was so spectacular because the way his face changes when he comes down the hallway and he's like, oh, there he is. There's my grandson. It finally kicked in and he's like kind of shaking his head like, oh, there he goes, boy. And then he turns around. It just like What?
It's Esther.
What are you? Like, he'd never seen her before in his life. Like, he had not acknowledged, like, he had not even known, like, she existed. She truly hadn't existed.
They did ignore her.
Yeah,
remember when they like forgot her in the car in the Catskills?
Oh
Like,
my God, that's right.
Esther has been ignored, and Ethan has been babied.
That's a very good point.
It's
It's because of her forehead. It's because her forehead's right.
And her poor nose.
Oh my God, you're right. And like, remember that in Midge's first stand-up, she's like, "Yes, my daughter does look more like Winston Churchill every day."
That was a great line.
She gets so much abuse all her life. Oh my God, like, I'm saying this with a smile on my face, but truly, this is like not okay. This is like, oh man, shit goes deep. Yeah, and see, this is where these are the things that I'm saying the flash forwards do kind of enrich the viewing experience, and I'm all on board with the flash forwards because of this reason. It's like more fun to watch knowing where Esther's going.
It is nice finding little nuggets of information here and there, and I'm sure rewatching it once we have all of the episodes in this season, rewatching it, you're gonna find even more peppered throughout.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, my marvelous moment is Joel is like taking the kids and he says, you know, he's like telling Ethan to like, come on, Ethan, and he says, he's like, say goodbye, or he says to Esther, say goodbye, and she goes, goodbye, and then Ethan just walks through the dining room flapping his wings, squawking like a chicken, and Astrid just puts her head down and starts to like sob. That moment, man, got me so hard.
That was perfect timing too with their conversation at the table.
Oh my God.
I was just like, how are you guys keeping a straight face with this one?
So good.
It was pretty good.
That little boy who plays, and I'm ashamed that I have not, I'm going to pull up his name when someone else is talking, but he is excellent and so cute. And the little girl too. These kids are so great. And I hate to say that, like, oh, I like this new little boy. I like the new Ethan better than the old Ethan. And it's not that at all. But
he gets
like,
to
he more material.
He's getting more material. And he's just really funny. And he's so cute.
They are really
He's
great.
very happy. He's fine.
Very happy. And
He might be the happiest child in history of the school or whatever the line was.
Erica, I thought of you. Oh my gosh, I thought of you so much during that scene. I'm gonna be calling you out during that scene.
Oh
to
my
have you
goodness.
chime in quite a bit. And yeah, now in hindsight, damn, thinking about it, I'm like, why didn't I?
Here's the names. So Ethan is played by Colin Keane.
Aw.
And Esther is Ireland Carvajal.
I love that name.
fun.
I remembered she had a cool name.
Yeah. They're talented little people.
And I gotta say, Astrid in that moment too, Justine Lupe had gold this episode. We're gonna get into it. Okay.
I love her.
I love her so much.
She's like gorgeous.
Yeah,
She
does.
did. I was going to talk. Okay. I have to talk about that because I was just like, what is happening with Astrid? Like, her hair looks fabulous.
Yeah.
Her makeup looks fabulous. Like, I don't
Totally.
know. She looked really good. I was distracted by that.
Yeah, right. So I totally was too. I mean, I have always been distracted by Astrid, but now that and more than just non-lesbians are distracted now, so it's not just I'm not crazy here. Okay,
It's true.
yeah,
Gorgeous people distracting us all.
Yeah, Justine Lupe, I love you. So first moment opens, and it's Shirley and Moish and the kids watching this Dick Van Dyke, Mary Tyler Moore sitcom. And it's with Sutton Foster and Hank Azaria. And I had this really cool, like, oh my God, that pullback cinematography moment where they zoom out from the shot of the TV to like in between Moish and Shirley. I just thought that was so cool.
It was so cool.
And I didn't notice it until my second watch. It was so subtle. And I must admit, Sutton Foster and Hank Azaria are somehow really perfect in black and white. Like, it's kind of eerie.
It just felt natural to see them that way.
They're chameleons.
Yeah. Sutton Foster, like Mary Tyler Foster. Or Sutton Foster Moore. How would you say? I don't know. However you want to spin it.
It took me a second to recognize her.
Oh, I recognized her right away, but she just looked so right.
I was just like, wait a second. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so Moist and Shirley are like so invested in this TV show, and they're like talking back to the screen and like, oh, Nancy, she's such a handful. And this reminded me so much of all my life. I love my grandparents. They're my people. Like I love spending time with them. And we always watch TV together, and we used to watch like murder mysteries, like Columbo together. And my favorite activity with both of them is drinking and talking back to the TV. We love to watch like The Price is Right. And just like make fun of people and like scream at the TV. It's so fun. So this really, really, I know it made me miss and after I watched this episode, I swear I called Mom Z and I'm like, Mom Z, I love you so much. I miss you. Are you watching Mrs. Maisel?
I had the same feelings. I did. It was very nostalgic. You know, you don't sit and watch TV with your grandparents anymore if they're not. But it was really sweet.
I always do when I go visit them, but unfortunately they don't live in close by anymore. But call your grandparents, listeners. Do it. I have to talk to my momsy every week. We're so close. I love her so much. Okay, so they're like obsessed with Danny Stevens, and they're like, what can't he do? He dances and sings, and he visits sick children. The sicker, the better. Oh, Shirley. And the whole time they're continually saying like, thank God we didn't have a girl. Ignore grandma. She's drunk.
That was hilarious.
That was so good. Caroline Aaron was killing it.
It's like establishing the theme of the episode right away.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, when Shirley's like, we sure dodged a bullet there, boy.
So you saying that he, that line about him taking care of sick children, or like the sicker the better. So are we thinking that that's a pretty clear indication that he is the mirror of Danny Thomas?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And they were saying that
back and forth.
Well, I saw there was a lot of inspiration from that, but they were saying like he was, and even if you look at Danny Thomas and Hank Azaria, they're very similar in their facial features,
right?
Now,
and they're saying, and then they were saying that Sutton Foster's character was more based on who was it, Margaret Williams, I guess. I didn't watch Make Room for Daddy, but I know who I know who Danny Thomas is, and I think what it was is the premise of the story was that his first wife passed away. He got remarried, and she came in and was the stepmother for his daughter. But yeah, it was more based off Make Room for Daddy. Not, even though I agree with you, Sutton Foster could do Mary Tyler Moore very, very well.
Seriously,
yeah. But the whole Make-A-Wish Foundation, I thought of Marlo Thomas and all the things that Danny Thomas did, for sick children. So kind of definitely mirrored that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, basically my feelings toward Danny Stevens, I love him. Please, more of him, less of Gordon Ford. Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought about you during this episode and all the Gordon parts.
Yep, we'll get to that. I have thoughts.
Me too.
So yeah, we just overall get some really great child rearing from the Maisels, and I'm like, I'm glad they didn't have a girl too. Because I'm glad they didn't have more than one child. That those two did not. No.
Fair.
Yeah. And Rose and Midge are trying to figure out where the onion smell is coming from in their house. And this cracked me up too, because I cannot stand the smell of onions. Like, I never cook with them myself, but I always make my dad, if he's going to like chop onions or whatever, he has to like throw them away in a separate plastic bag and seal that bag and not put the naked onions in the garbage, because it will reek up the garbage. And then if you don't take it out. Yeah.
That's a really good name for a band. Naked Onions in a bag.
Oh, God. No, not my band. I hate onions. I don't mind if onions have like if food has been marinated in onions, but I just have to get the taste, because I get it. I've matured in my taste buds over the years, and like I do believe in the onion taste enhancing and sautéing, but I can't eat an onion. I have to pick them up.
Wait, what about like caramelized onions? Will you eat those?
I'm not going to eat them. I'm not going to. They're slimy and gross, but they add flavor. I will like take them and like mush them around. I will like mush my food around in those onions, but then I have to remove them before I actually eat whatever it is.
Yeah, I totally get it. Listen, I'll go on a tangent with you any day. I can't eat onions. Not that I don't like them. I can't. They don't like me. Aww. They hurt my body. Yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah,
but
I feel like they don't like me either, and that's probably just because I have never had them.
their arch nemesis is that's your kryptonite.
That's funny.
Yeah,
That is your
truly.
garlic.
It's okay. That's how
Yeah.
I feel about tomatoes and regular lettuce.
Oh, I love me some
Yeah.
tomatoes.
Oh, tomatoes
But
are my
anyway.
favorite. Yes.
Yes, right? Okay, Erica, we have a lot
Pisces
in common.
power.
Yes, Pisces power. No onions.
All the tomatoes.
All the tomatoes. Okay, sorry. So, Midge, Rose has an amazing outfit, the striped blouse, and that matching hat. Tilted.
And that necklace.
I know she had awesome necklaces through this whole episode, and it's enamel, and I'm sure that it's real enamel because in the 60s the plasticky look for jewelry, it wasn't plastic. Enamel is like precious and it shatters very quickly. I have some bangles that my friend got them for me from a vintage clothing store. They're like hundreds of dollars to get this enamel jewelry because it's so expensive to make and they don't make it anymore. Or like not, mass producing it. And yeah, if you just like so much as like bump your wrist the wrong way, like that enamel will just shatter. So I'm sure that what she's wearing is like real vintage, gorgeous enamel necklaces. But yeah, I was clocking those outfits from Rose and Midge this episode, but especially Rose. Rose was on point with those outfits. And that striped one was my favorite one. I would wear that. With that hat, that Carmen Sandiego hat. Oh,
that was
they look gorgeous.
fantastic.
She was looking hot. I mean, Maren Hinkle is gorgeous. Like, she's so sexy. And she looked hot in that outfit. Sorry, Erica, I keep...
No, that's okay. No, you're not. And I'm just trying to interject. But I noticed that all of their outfits were using some type of geometric kind of pattern. Either lines, all of them, if you look at them, every single outfit, because the clothes were gorgeous. I don't know if it was a particular designer, but I think that's something I might do for homework to check it out, because it was
fun.
It was very different from what they've been wearing, and they all had like geometric lines, or it was very clean and definitely going towards that mod look, possibly. Yeah,
I just love the 60s, 70s.
It was gorgeous.
Favorite. Yeah, for fashion. So, okay, back to the scene. So Midge invites Shirley and Moish to the Gordon Ford show to see Danny Stevens, and they're like, Miriam, whoever's getting us the tickets, give us a call. I'm getting you the tickets. So they'll call? Yes, I'll call. And then she goes, oh, good. We're so excited. And she like slams the door on her. They just cannot fathom that Midge is the one getting these tickets. And like, I've heard people complain about this, that like, it's not reality. Like when someone is saying, I'm speaking an English word. I'm speaking English. And how are they not receiving this clear, plain English coming at them? And I'm like, no, it's funny. Trust me, it's funny. This is so funny to me.
I will say, there are some like Amy Sherman Palladino, Daniel Palladino bits that I don't think land well, that I get irritated with, one of which we will definitely talk about later. But I don't know if it's Carolyn Aaron and Kevin Pollak who
I think it's
make me forgive it, but the way they do it is just so like cheeky and genuine that it cracks me up. And
so
I don't
genuine.
know, like it's a bit that's kind of been run into the ground, but I love every single minute of it.
Yeah,
it's cute.
I really do too. I'm a tough crowd. I'm a picky audience with stuff like this, you know? But I'm telling you, it's like that the fact that they're just so determined to not hear her is just so funny. I don't know why. It's so funny. Oh God. And yeah, Shirley was so insulting to Rose though, right? In this scene, God. Like when she said she wants to throw a party for those sad, lonely women who'll pay her money for a husband. I was like, oh, Shirley.
Shirley, no filter.
Shirley No Filter. That's what they call her. That would be Shirley's Instagram name if she had Shirley No Filter. All one word. And yeah, Rose wants to give dance lessons, and we're getting to see that Rose she really wants to be this kind of like one-stop shop for matchmaking. And we see this in her commercial where like her headquarters or her business, is like doubling as this salon and a place where girls can come, and it's like a finishing school,
Yeah.
Like Rose's, prep school for girls or whatever, and it's like, what did they call those places? not it's like not manners school.
It was a finishing school.
A finishing school, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's what it is called. I feel
I was
like
like, I thought of
for it.
cotillion, where you're being presented and you have to learn all the proper dances and what freaking silverware to use and all that crap.
Yeah, right.
I'm having PTSD flashbacks. It's fine.
And Rose wasn't from the South. She's from like West. Where was it again?
I'm looking up the wiki. That's what it says. Residence, occupation, Providence, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say it.
That
I'm gonna
makes
say it now.
sense.
Like it just popped into my head.
Although she does not have an Oklahoma accent
No.
at all.
So I don't know if you would have a cotillion or like a coming out party in Oklahoma, but I feel like
They
Rose
have-
probably did.
They have debutantes and things
Right,
like that.
yeah.
in
That's
Oklahoma.
true.
Rose was definitely one of them. So,
yeah.
so Rose comes out, and this was close to being my most marvelous moment when Rose comes out for her commercial. We're in 1973 now, flashing forward a little bit, and she comes out in this amazing outfit. Close your eyes, picture love. Do you see your handsome academic husband, children, a modern apartment with skyline views? Or do you see a successful orthodontist, children, and a 2-story colonial somewhere suburban? Perhaps it's a strapping young high-end contractor, children, in a renovated farmhouse that makes your heart skip a beat. Whatever love looks like to you, I can help you find it. Here at Rose Weissman's 1+1 = Love Romance Emporium. Oh God, this moment, guys, I'm sorry I had to do the whole bit. It was so good.
You just needed the fan to blow, wind through your hair.
And the rose petals falling
Yes.
from the
Oh
ceiling,
my
y'all.
gosh.
And those actors in the back with the faces and the smiles.
Okay, so I was on a shoot today on that bus I was telling you about to do some background work on a show, Boss, and I recognized one of the actors in this scene. She's wearing this blue outfit. And she has black hair, and it's really like big hair. And at the end of the scene, she's right behind Maren Hinkle, and
I saw her.
Oh,
she turns
yeah.
she turns the chair around and like whips the thing off of the little hairdresser thing off her neck, and she like turns the chair around really quick. And I was like, oh my God, that's Lynn Ann. And I've seen her we do background work together all the time, and she's a fabulous lady. And I was so excited to see her today because we were doing background work together today. And I was like, what was it like to shoot that scene? And she said that they spent hours on her hair. They put in a bunch of fake hair pieces to get that like 70s volume. And she's like,
That
oh, yeah,
checks
all
out.
Like, fake hair.
That's amazing.
And she goes, I don't know why they didn't just have a wig for me because it would have saved so much time. Like, and I'm like, yes, that's very
The
true.
attention to detail.
Yeah. And she said the outfit was extremely uncomfortable and very thick and like hot. And it was probably like real vintage 70s. She said it didn't seem like it was made for the shoot. That seemed like a piece that was found, which I thought was really cool because it was fabulous. They had some fabulous outfit stuff happening in the 70s. And she said that what she loved about working on the show was that the direction was so clear, and they told her, okay, what you're doing is you're going to get these people ready for these women to go meet their husbands. And the whole cast and everyone on the background was in theater, or they had some kind of dance training. And I've heard that a lot.
I love that.
Yeah, that they only hired like dancers or theater actors. And she said, yeah, because it's not like working on average background stuff where you can just kind of do whatever and no one gives you direction. And that's how it is all the time when you do background. You just stand there and you kind of guess. And because you don't feel like you have, everyone else is busy. They're not worried about you. You're just literally supposed to stand there and be set dressing. And she said, no, they were like really working with background actors, and they were really trying to get us to really act. And she said it was actual acting to do on background, which is rare. And I'm like, no, it looked like you were very animated, more animated in your face. And yeah.
Like you can tell how much detail and thought goes into the blocking essentially for the Palladinos in these scenes. And, having theater actors and actors who are used to it, like all of the movement is essentially choreography. Just the way that they move and walk around each other and move about each other in a scene is so intentional.
And She said that it was really encouraged. They really encouraged her to make her expressions like bigger and to do like more stage things. Like instead of background, usually the rule of thumb is like super subtle, almost nothing, do not distract. And she said, no, they wanted me to like pull focus almost because I noticed it a lot. I enjoy looking at the background on this show. You know, it's like real actors, you can tell. And they don't feel like it just disappears into nothingness in the wallpaper or something, you know?
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool.
That is cool.
Neat.
Yeah. So Lynn Ann, if you're listening, babe, you're fabulous.
What perfect timing.
I know. How crazy is that?
I definitely noticed her and I appreciated her.
Right. Yeah,
sure.
Me too. And she said that there was so much smoking on set that they're not like real cigarettes, but the girl that she had to stand and do her hair, she said, oh, sure, I'll smoke. Like, yeah, give me a cigarette. And Lynn Ann was like, no, I don't want to. Please, no. Like, even if it's a fake cigarette, I don't want to do it. And the girl said after like, you know, a couple of hours goes by, they go to lunch, they come back and she was like, oh, man, I really regret saying that I would smoke because it's not pleasant. And I know I've smoked those kind of stage cigarettes and they're not fun. Blech. So anyway, I was like, I'm confused about what this commercial is. I don't. It seemed like there were so many people kind of all around and I'm like, who is I mean, I guess it's the 70s, right? But I was like, they're doing her hair. I'm like, what are they selling here? This is like so just cuckoo bananas commercial time. And
it's like a one-stop shop for dating.
Right. Yeah. So I kind of figured that's what it was but I mean, they're like rose petals flying all over the place. And look at what Rose is wearing. She's got like the pink chiffon with like matching tropical flowers in her hair. But I loved it, man. It was fabulous. And Midge with her hair and
her jumper.
It was like this long jean lace up vest. I feel like 70s Midge is my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
70s everybody is like
looked more like Rose's hair in this scene. I was just like, I can appreciate that little detail.
Yeah.
Even though it also made me overthink and wonder if they were trying to tell us more with it. Because that's how my brain works.
I thought it was funny, too, how I don't think Rachel Brosnahan was wearing any old age makeup in this scene. And they covered it by saying, because it's like, it would be so subtle in 73, you know, like it would be just barely anything, like just a little bit of aging. But they covered it by saying, like, your face still has traces of my face. So it's almost the same face. And she goes, that's a weird way of saying you've had work done. And I'm like, oh, nice. So that's why she looks so young. She's getting those injections. I see you. Yeah. And I was like, I was shocked in this episode, in this scene that Midge was like so helpful and supportive with Rose's business. It made me really happy because they're usually so separate and neither, you know, gets involved with each other's business lives at all. They're so much alike, right? And I'll point it out later in other scenes, but they like never admit that they really need each other until this. And with like Miriam's support, you know, Rose was able to like finish the commercial and have confidence. And I don't know, I loved seeing that, like they're closer.
That was sweet.
Yeah.
But now we're gonna discuss the scene in 73, that other scene with Susie there. Because the reason that they're close is like not a happy one. And I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
So you got You're So Vain playing in the background, which is perfect. because anytime Midge asked Rose for help in the 60s, like she was way too busy. Rose constantly like making everything about her. Like Rose was very selfish in this episode. It was not a good look for Rose. Rose is my favorite. So that was sad for me. Yeah, like she even, like, there was one point where she even asks Zelda, like, maybe it's the Weissman firstborn male handbook, you know, that she's referring. It's like, why would Zelda refer to that book? It's like, because everything's about me. I don't know. You know, she's like so selfish. So, yeah, we find out that the commercial cost 3 times what they had budgeted. Yikes. And this guy, Brian, he wants to have a come to Jesus talk. Because Rose's business is financially draining Midge. And she apparently had several locations, like the one on Madison Avenue didn't do well. And like, why do you guys think that is the case? Like, why is Rose's business not doing
well? I mean, it's the 70s, and after the sexual revolution in the 60s, I feel like the traditions that Rose is familiar with have been flipped upside down. So she is stuck in this matchmaking phase, essentially, about, women obviously want to find the perfect husband and
have children,
because she said children over and over again. And I think it's just a mismatch for the times and the way she's approaching it. Because especially in New York City in 1973, poor Rose.
Yeah, she's a little behind the times. That was my thought too.
Yeah.
And then because when I saw this scene, I was like, oh yeah. And now I remember children. Like Rose she's so stuck in the past, and that has to be the way. And yeah, if there's if there's anywhere in the world that's going to be more progressive, it's New York.
Mm-hmm. It did a really good job of reminding us how Midge was raised. And, Rose and Abe, we get to go into all this detail about happiness and success. And Rose and Abe were 100% the type of people who valued, taking the correct steps in society's eyes and having success in that way over happiness. Happiness is second. Society and appearances and all of that is way up top.
Yeah, a better title for this episode would be Happiness Doesn't Matter. Fuck happiness. Nobody's happy here. Yeah, a house full of extremely suicidal people. I mean, not that suicide is anything to joke about, but you know what I mean? I mean, it's kind of like the Maisel way of no one is happy, and that's just life, kid,
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rose wasn't doing great in my eyes in this whole thing, because she refuses to rent for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that would matter. So Midge bought the building, and Brian suggests that she sell the building and just pay her mom a salary herself, because she'll be making more money that way. And I'm like, that is so sad.
That is sad.
But Midge is doing Rose no favors. I just wish, it's tell people the truth, because by lying to Rose and telling her that the business is doing fine because you just want to make her happy in the little time she has left, why not make that time she has left honesty time? Real time. I don't know. But you know what it is? Who would do something just like that? Fucking Rose.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel Midge and Rose are very similar. I've always seen it.
How many honest conversations do you think Rose and Midge have had over the years? Honest, raw conversations. Well, I feel like they're both very good at just shoving everything down and putting on a happy face.
Right.
Oh, yeah. To the point where both of them had their, when you shake up a bottle of fizzy drink and then it just, you take the lid off. And that's what happened to Midge when she got drunk and she wandered onto that stage at the Gaslight, and that's what happened to Rose when she started doing her matchmaker thing, and the matchmakers tried to shut her down, and she's like, no, I won't be silenced. And then Midge comes home, and remember after she was working at the Wolford, I think it was in season 4, Rose just let her have it one night. Midge came home and she was really tired. Mm-hmm. That was season 4, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's all
and
of
she confronted her with the matchbook.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, about how
Yep.
But it wasn't, not that it was an honors conversation, it was just, again, that Midge's behavior would affect her business.
Exactly.
It was not that she felt, it was she disagreed with her choices. She was just worried about appearances. And a lot of this always has to do with that, is how she's perceived by people. The only conversation I could think of that might have kind of dealt a little bit about how they are is when they were right before Zelda's wedding, and they were looking at the pictures, and it just shows you how closed off Rose is. She doesn't share anything with Midge, and Midge was trying, and it just became very uncomfortable. And again,
that's the thing, discomfort. Because I'm sure Rose's mother and her parents were probably the same exact way. And I feel like they kind of showcase this to us from the very beginning of the show. Because hearing happiness and references to happy over and over again in this episode made me think of, the primary example of Rose and Abe at Midge's wedding and talking about Midge, just we're very happy and repeating it.
Oh my God, you're
over
so right.
and
Damn,
over
Kara.
again.
That was,
and it's
that was not only season 1, episode 1, first scene of episode 1.
Right,
Well done,
right.
Kara.
But like obviously you can read it as they're happy for their daughter, she's getting married, but no, like they're happy because it's a good match. She's young and getting married. Like, it's the appearance of everything. And they freak out when she makes the joke about the shrimp and the egg rolls because that affects them as well.
Okay, so now I have to defend my Rose just a little bit, okay? Just a tiny bit, because not this episode. This episode, I ain't defending shit, man. She was just fucking awful.
Yeah, it was a little rough.
I love her being awful. I love it all, but, you know, it was bad. But no, in season 4, though, when she does like confront Midge about the appearances thing, when she's like, I found your matches and they're gonna know that you're working in a whorehouse and blah, you know. The only thing that I will say, though, is that Rose was raised to be quiet, have no personality, to, you know, no one in her family respects her. No one, it's all male dominated, and no one even sees her as like a functioning human who can like basically wipe her own butt. So I was proud of Rose when she said, damn it, I'm going to do this. Don't get in my way. And when she finally like showed her honest, this is how I feel, because everyone's entitled to their feelings. Like, just because you're a little old fashioned, you know, as long as you're not hurting anybody, it's not wrong. But this episode, she's hurting people. Midge is letting herself be hurt.
Yeah.
You know, granted, but still, this is just, it's not helping anything. It's all bad. It's all just not good. Susie, you're no good. Midge, you're no good. Rose, you're no good. You're no good. Stop it.
Really.
It feels very, the way that she like lied to herself when she was married to Joel. Her life was like an illusion with Joel. How she wore like makeup. She wore makeup to bed and woke up in the middle of the night to take it off. Like, I just wish that Midge would like apply that to her relationship with Rose. Like how she now is honest with Joel. She's honest with everybody else. Like, just be honest with your mother. I don't know. And then
I think she tries sometimes. It just gets shut down.
Yeah.
Instantaneously if she tries to like wedge her foot in the door even a little bit.
You mean Rose would shut it down?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
She's very closed off. Rose has this wall, and she always has.
Yeah,
And it's sad, but I almost feel like, you know, if we're looking at the flash forwards, Midge is trying to restore things or make things better for all the people in her life. If you think about it, she called
up to her.
Yeah, she called. I have to watch it again. The very first flash forward with Esther, was she calling her because of something? Was she trying to restore something in a relationship when she went to go see Ethan and was trying to get him to go with her? And then of course the last episode, which she wants to restore that relationship with Susie, and then with her mom, with Rose. She's keeping something from her mom. I think we all can kind of figure out it's something not good. Remember, they keep on telling Rose how wonderful she looks. It doesn't look positive for Rose. But I'm wondering if it's a kind of trend, like she's just trying to make up for lost time or make them happy in some way.
It is interesting with Rose, too. The way that they're handling her and talking to her in the way that Midge was talking to Susie. Like, my first thought when Midge said something about, you know, with the time that she has left in reference to Rose, I was like, oh, does she have cancer? Like, what's going on?
Or is it Alzheimer's or dementia?
I was like, dementia or Alzheimer's, because Rose seems great. Like, she seemed enthusiastic. And is it just she's putting on a brave face? Or does Rose not know the extent of how serious whatever it is that's going on with her is?
I know. That's what I was wondering, too. I had the same question. Because she doesn't act like she's aware.
It's almost like we're just going to keep her happy. Keeping her happy right now. Like, let's let her do this.
Let her do her thing. This is her thing. Keep her happy. Money's no object. But it's obviously it is. But
yeah. And we see the money is no object thing. Like, Midge is doing this for her because Midge is able to financially, she's, you know, in a financially safe like place. Well, kind of, I guess, not anymore since Rose's business is like doing so poorly. But we see that flashback, not flashback. We go back to regular. Is it the regular present time? In the 60s, I guess that's our baseline.
I guess, yeah.
Present day. So if I say present day, I mean
1961. Yeah.
yeah. So Midge comes home after getting rejected, and Rose has no consideration for anyone else. God, I love Rose so much, but she's just so selfish when she's like, the bathroom won't be finished and I have to rent a hall with my own money and nobody cares. I know you don't care and you think it's frivolous, but it only matters to me. And it was not good. So now we see like Midge is, okay, what's the one thing I can do for Mama? Money. I can give her business money. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Well, we have a lot of theories though in the listener feedback for what's going on health-wise with Rose. So
nice.
We're going to talk. I know we're going to talk more about it when we hear what our listeners have to say, because they have some great ideas about what could be wrong with Rose. Because I really don't know what ails Rose at this point. So let's move it along then to this amazing scene with Zelda and Janusz.
Oh my gosh. The weaponized incompetence that is running rampant in this episode.
This scene was so unhinged.
Look, I like a bit every now and then. Like, I get it. It's a campy show, and it's not going to be completely realistic or serious, but this whole thing just did not land for me and kind of irritated me. And I will say, it did kind of
hot takes from Kara.
I know. Like, there are a couple of themes. My lizard is getting really amped up now too. She's very passionate. But there were a couple of themes.
Tell the listeners her name.
Yeah, Mrs. Daryl Dixon.
Mrs. Daryl Dixon. She's just nestled on Kara's chest right now, and it's adorable.
Yep.
Every podcast we have a lizard joining us.
Yes.
Yeah. What is it? My emotional support bearded dragon.
Yeah.
Thanks to that movie on Netflix that came out not too long ago that now I can't remember the name. But
love it.
I don't know. Like, I guess there were a couple of themes that stood out throughout the episode. And one we've already kind of touched on with the idea of happiness and success, and whether you can have it all essentially, or be both, be happy and successful. But the other theme that seems to be shining through is really just this notion of parenting. And we see it with, obviously, the way Midge parents her children. Mm-hmm. We see Abe and, his grandson, Abe and his son-in-law, and even Zelda essentially parenting the Weissman clan, even after she has left the nest.
Poor Zelda.
We even have Dan Stevens talking about his parents on the Gordon Ford show. Like, there's just a lot of this parenting theme throughout. But in this scene, I went a little nuts. Like, I can't appreciate the choreographed chaos when Rose is, trying to figure out how to turn the stove, and Midge is trying to fix Esther's, like, one pigtail, and Abe is desperately trying to teach Ethan piano.
Yeah, I did crack up when Esther was just moving her head so obnoxiously, like, because you could just tell that this little girl was told, just move your head like crazy. Just do not let her fix your hair. And she's like,
she committed. For real.
I felt that moment, because I felt that personal experience of dealing with a young child. Not letting me put her in pigtails.
Like,
there are moments.
Everybody shouting from, like, different rooms. Like, everybody who has any sort of, large family has felt that. Okay. So that part I liked.
And I gotta say real quick, this was like done that the way that they were having everyone shout from different places. And it was so obnoxious, and just like, you people are crazy, like, it was just a madhouse.
Remind me of the Wonder Wheel, right?
I love how we each share a brain. So this is where I was going.
Yes!
The Wonder Wheel bit was an example of this not working for me. I know a lot of people loved that bit. For some reason, I just didn't find it funny. And I feel like what you're saying, Kara, is just like all of this. Like, I recognize that it is comedy, it is funny, but it just didn't work for you. And that's how I felt about the Wonder Wheel thing. Like, it's not like I didn't like it, but it just didn't tickle me. But this scene I liked. This
one landed.
Yeah.
That's where this one landed.
Yeah.
And I get that. Like, and I
But I love that it didn't for you. Tell me more about it, because I'm sure you're not alone.
You know how we talked about Abe? Maybe it was when he was having the confusion about whether or not a hand on his thigh and flirtation was a sexual advance or whatever. Where it's like, did you forget everything that you learned in Paris?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you just get amnesia when you came back? And this one, when Rose is standing there trying to figure out how to turn the stove on, and then Zelda comes in and it's like, the pilot lights out, and she's like, the pilot lights out. I was like, this is the same Rose who moved to Paris on her own and was basically being an independent boss bitch in her apartment, just thriving,
Right.
Okay.
And now she's back and can't figure out how to turn the stove on.
Okay, Kara.
And the book.
Kara, I got to hold on. I just got to interrupt real quick, because you did make me remember something that I didn't even acknowledge and write down when I saw this, is that, yeah, you're right. That moment where Rose was going, the pilot lights out. She says it's easy to fix. Miriam, it's easy to fix. I was like, even Maren Hinkle cannot pull this off. This is bad writing.
Right?
This is not it.
Like,
I didn't like it.
That was not her.
No.
That was not on her.
And
that was...
I really do agree with the whole, I really miss, because season 2 was just my favorite. Catskills, in Paris, it was
gold.
so gold that season. But yes, so it's like, I totally agree with you, and I didn't even think of it until just now, that like, yeah, I really do miss that Abe and Rose, because it's like, fine, okay, if they're not those people, but then just don't give me a glimpse of what I could have, and then take it away.
Right.
But I think they get zanier. Like, as the series has gone on, they're getting a little bit more outrageous. And
it's
their
fine, but it makes less sense, because we saw them grow and then just go backwards so hard.
And
it's
then
like,
we forget about it.
Right.
Because for the sake of the bit. And I feel like the Palladinos do this
a bad bit.
a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, damn it. And obviously, like, I'm sure that there are bits that, like, the Moish and Shirley back and forth, I thought that was hilarious. And I'm sure there were people sitting at home being like, seriously, again?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
They don't know where she works. But with this one, like, I feel like Abe and Rose, especially when we're at the beginning of the series, were kind of this lovely foil to Moish and Shirley.
Right.
And being able to compare the two of them and how kind of wild and kooky and quirky Moish and Shirley were, and then Abe and Rose were these, this Columbia professor and this very refined, couple. And now I'm just like,
well, they're
not complete idiots.
They are still Jewish, and Jews be obnoxious. That is not. And any Jew,
I love obnoxious.
Any Jew will tell you.
But
but it's
you're right.
Go on, Erica.
Well, I mean, just to tie it in, like, they're amplifying their behaviors. Like in this particular episode, they're making them much more larger than life, far more obnoxious, far more like dependent or codependent of other people.
Yeah.
Where you're right, like I was thinking back, you brought me back to Paris. Like Rose was like cooking. And like she was like living like a bohemian like artist, and
she knows how to turn on a stove.
Yeah,
she could kill a cockroach.
Candlelight.
She goes, "Do you want me to kill the cockroach?" Like, she's badass,
And her little doggy.
She was
but it's like they're questioning. Like we don't have amnesia. We remember that Rose. We remember that the way Abe was, and also like there was a touch of that passion when Abe's friend, oh my God, Jason Alexander,
Asher
came, and he found out that Asher and Rose had a relationship. Like, you saw that passion.
Yeah.
But but like, where did it go? It's like those.
Yeah. And when he was with all his beatnik friends and like going to stage a sit-in and being upset that his criminal charges were dismissed, like that Abe was so much fun to watch. And in this one, like, I mentioned weaponized incompetence earlier. And I will say, I learned this phrase a couple of years ago on TikTok. And it seemed particularly relevant in this episode. Yeah, because, I mean, I get it. Like, Rose and Abe are clearly privileged. They had a privileged upbringing. They continue to have, wealth and privilege in the present, in the 60s. But the fact that Zelda has to keep coming back because they call her for help was driving me crazy. And Janusz going through this kind of litany of things in Polish that she's had to help out for. He's talking, like, she sits down to fix, or bends over to fix Esther's hair.
Janusz was your spirit animal in this scene.
He was my mouthpiece.
Yeah.
I was just like, yes, Janusz, you tell her. He was like, you have to stop helping these people.
Yeah.
They didn't know there was a higher shelf in the linen closet.
They couldn't look up.
They forgot how to stack wood in a fireplace. A bird flew in, and they could not think to just open a window and let it out. And I get, like, okay, if it was just that, I was like, all right, that's kind of funny. Their help's gone, haha. But the fact, and I don't know if this is just me projecting, but the fact that Zelda spent all this time and made them a book
with pictures
and instructions, and it's in the kitchen, and she keeps mentioning it. And I was just like, damn it, guys. Like, she made this as easy as possible for you. And both of them were like, oh, a book? Where'd that come from? What book is she talking about? I was just like, nope, not doing it for me.
Yeah.
I can't handle it.
This was one of those things, too, that, it got a little tiresome, the way that, like, scene after scene, they just kept being like, what book? And it's like, oh, my God. You're not Moish and Shirley. Like, I buy it so hard with Moish and Shirley that Moish can just look at Midge and be like, you're a comedian? What? You're really people pay money to listen to you talk? No, they don't. Like, he just they just cannot believe that Midge is successful in any way as a comedian. They just won't believe it. It doesn't matter that there's all the evidence in the world. Nope, they cannot believe it. And I buy it. But with Rose and Abe, it's like logic applies here. In the past, it has applied. So the
Moish
book
and Shirley were branded to us as comedic relief, essentially. Where with Abe and Rose, we saw them grow, and then it's like that was just forgotten because, you know what, we're at the end of the series, and this is a bit. But I just, and, you know, of course, that's where we get the title of our episode with Janusz mentioning to Zelda, you know, like, back in the old country, when a horse is lame, it is useless, so you shoot it. This is an entire house full of extremely lame horses. And I was like, you know what, Janusz, you are spot on. Except for, like, Esther. Yeah. Esther's doing good. But everybody else was just, it's kind of frustrating to watch. And with Midge, I can forgive it a little bit because, you know, she's kind of reverting back to you know, living with her parents. But that whole I did think just it was frustrated
funny.
Me.
The part that I thought was very funny was like what you were saying about Zelda taking all this time. Okay, I've got these complete and total helpless idiots on my hands, and I'm going to leave them. So what am I going to do? How am I going to help them? I know what I'll do. I'll make a book filled with every incidental thing that could possibly happen. Put it right there with pictures. When she goes, no flamin' stove for tea is how to fix. No flamin' stove for tea. Very easy. A picture of a teacup and everything. Maybe you try for next time. And she goes, oh, please, if I did that, I'd blow the entire building up. And then Midge says the same exact thing. Oh, my God, you have to light a match? If I did that, I'd blow the entire building up. And it's like, Midge, I thought we were past this, you know, but she's so like her mother. I'm telling you, the similarities are abundant between the two of them.
Learned helplessness.
Yeah, right.
Well, yes, and that was one of my favorite exchanges. Are you going to continue?
Because then Zelda says in Polish to Janusz, well, she really might blow the entire building up. And Janusz is like, then let her. It's like, let them die. They're helpless.
Yep. It's their own damn fault.
Yeah.
It's like they'd all get a Darwin Award for the most ridiculous way to die.
Janusz, I still stand by that. Like, Janusz will turn into the villain and he will shoot them all. And I still will. I'm like, okay, Janusz is clearly,
that would be a dark turn.
Yeah. But totally on brand for Janusz at this point because he hates these people. When Midge goes, oh, it's lucky you're here to help me unclog this drain. And he was like, yes, so lucky. Like being a leprechaun.
Yes, so lucky.
My lucky day.
I did love the fact that Ethan had like hammered and shoved his boat into the bathtub drain. I was like, oh, you little guy. Like, and Midge's whole conversation with him, like, what have I told you about putting things down drains? And he's like, nothing, which I believe.
Yeah.
Like, obviously that has not come up. Like, that exchange and then leading into Midge not being able to go to that parents' event at school, that I enjoyed. Yeah. But I just got super frustrated, I guess, on Zelda's behalf
Totally.
during that whole exchange. I was like, this bit is not doing it for me. I don't buy it. It's not consistent with the character development that we've seen with Abe and Rose to me.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree with a lot of that. There's some more stuff I have to say about character inconsistency with Susie. But yeah, it's not that I couldn't buy that Midge was this incompetent, because I can buy it. Like, they have this is built into Midge's character, but I was hoping by at this point Midge would be more self-sufficient,
independent, and
I had higher expectations for some reason.
We took a few steps back. We really did.
Yeah. I'm curious if anybody loved it. If you can write in and kind of explain your perspective, because I'm very curious.
And it's just strange because it's not that I didn't love it, but now that you're talking about it more, I'm like, yeah, okay, I have to admit there was like a wriggling something behind my mind where I'm like, I'm just not completely buying it. Like something,
there's like a brain worm.
Yeah. And I couldn't like put my finger. Well, I mean, I guess I just didn't want to. I don't want to like not love this show, you know? Like, it's so easy to just watch and love it, you know? But yeah, no, with this being this is third to the last episode that we're ever going to get of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
I think that was clouding my, you know, or I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but clouding my enjoyment of the show, because I am actively aware as I'm watching it that this is one of the last 3 episodes that we're gonna get, and I was just like, this is what you're giving me,
you know,
right now.
Yeah, I was thinking perhaps, and if it could be a little bit of fan service, just to give us more zany Rose, Abe, Zelda, kind of giving us that little bit of like what happened in the earlier seasons. And I like the overacting of Rose. Like, she's like,
Marin
like,
Hinkle,
you know,
when she says, I cannot expose unmarried women to nude floors, it would feel like a brothel.
Yeah.
I was like I loved that moment so much.
It was very over the top, and I think that's probably what I enjoyed.
And that's Rose. That worked. That's our Rose, you know. But yeah,
that was spot on.
But you're right.
This whole Weissman turning into the Maisels thing, it's like, this is Moish and Shirley's bit. Why are you doing it here with Abe and Rose? Yeah, it's not that I can't see this happening because Zelda's leaving them, and so this is the next logical step. They're helpless, but so much helpless.
The logic would be to hire another housekeeper, but they'll never do that because they're not logical.
Well, no, because now what they think is Zelda will just work for free. We'll just call her constantly and have her come over. So she's still our maid. She's just not getting paid. And Janusz is like, do not pick up that phone. He's like, you can pick up a phone yourself. And Rose is like, I suppose I can.
Oh, yeah. I did enjoy it later on when Zelda, when, you know, they're having, what was it, breakfast with Astrid and Noah and all that.
That was some great, that was some great, that's an
scene
example. That's everything I love.
That's
about
what they're missing. They were missing a meal. It would have made it better.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I do have to say, though, that when Rose was just like, I just need some tea, Abe, she kept screaming. Like, Marin Hinkle, just her screaming that way, like, helpless screaming, to anyone else would make that so annoying. When she just, Abe! Like, the way Marin Hinkle does it, though, it worked for me, man. I don't know. Rose very rarely doesn't work for me. But yeah, when you brought up that moment of when she was calling out to, it's easy to fix. Yeah, I was like, all of this inconsistency sacrificed for a bit that wasn't worth it. I don't think. I think we can all concur.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
But I did enjoy that Midge. Well, Abe actually was doing all right this episode because he checks on Midge, you know, in the bathroom at the end. And that was very nice. But he does like help out because Midge is running herself ragged this whole episode, right? And she's being kind of almost motherly to everyone in the house, like taking care of everyone, the money thing, and she needs someone to go to Ethan's school, and Abe steps up. And he did it only because he heard there was a snack in it for him. Someone pees their pants. You're a terrible salesman. Fine, I'll go, but I'm warning you, the first person who wets their pants, I'm out of there. Unless it's a really good snack. Deal.
That was funny. Oh, another thing I have to say, this kid who played, what was his name again? Who played Ethan? I hate myself for not writing down his name.
Colin.
When he had his little moment here, this really made me love him. When she said, I've told you about, not putting things down drains. Wasn't there a thing with a marble? And he goes, that was up my nose.
Colin Keane, you're the best. That was
Colin
brilliant.
Keane.
Yes.
Damn it, Mom.
He was really good. And then she said, what about when you cut up a bunch of playing cards and did something weird? All right. So before we get to Ave at the school, though, we do get Midge, hustling her butt off at work in the writer's room.
So she walks in with the blue dress, the beautiful blue dress. Okay.
And the coat, the black and white coat and hat.
Yes.
Y'all, that hat, though. Like, oh my God. I literally have in my notes the amazing black and white coat and hat. That hat. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's literally my notes. Like, I wanted that hat so fucking bad. I have a thing for hats.
I think they're going to have to put all the costumes in a museum just so we could go and drool over them. And
that
They really should.
that blue dress, though, Rachel Brosnahan looks good in every color under the sun, but that blue dress, like, she needs to only wear that color blue because it is so good on her. She looks so gorgeous in it. I don't know what that color blue is, but it's my favorite blue. Whenever I see that color blue, it like reminds me of Spanish paintings or like Italy in the summertime. Outside roses and like that blue,
it was gorgeous.
It's happy.
Yeah.
So Midge comes into the writer's room. She's stressing about her house. She's stressing about her kids and her mother. And she just stops midway where she sees the boys are just staring at her. And she's like, oh, yeah, well, how about the tits on Ursula Anders? And then they go back and forth. So, which was hilarious. But it's like she just wants to kind of like vent out and just release all the stress that she has and just talk to her coworkers who are her friends. But they just don't. They don't care. They don't relate. They don't care about her problems. And again, poor Midge shut down by the guys.
Didn't one of them say, Mel, I think it was at one time, he's like, you got to make a decision. Are you one of us or are you a housewife? Like, which is it going to be? Like, yeah.
It's more like, hey, you can't have both. You can't have it all.
Right. Yeah. He said it like jokingly, but it's so true. Like, it does speak to the bigger point that women who are also caretakers of other people, it's like you back in that day, you did one or the other. And so these writers are like, how do we talk to you? Because the only women we're familiar with is like the secretaries who are too young. They haven't gotten married yet, or they don't have families, or we have Gordon's Mrs. Moskowitz. Marge, yes, Annie Golden.
That's right.
So it's like you're either, like a young secretary or you're like Marge or, Mrs. Moskowitz. So yeah, they don't know how to deal with like a mom and like mommy problems. And yeah, Midge, it's so sad. She needs Imogene. Where's Imogene to talk to?
Know.
They need to hire more women writers. That's probably would solve a little bit of the problem, but they're not about to.
Right?
No, then we are introduced to Danny Stevens, who is our the gentleman who was in that TV show that we opened with, and he is going to be a guest on the show, and we get to see the just kind of like where Midge is really kind of taking over what the writer's room really was. Like they start talking, he starts going over his jokes, what he wants to present, and then Midge provides the idea like, well, why don't you do what's in your book? Like, you're talking about your family, use your family as your inspiration and have that. And she's kind of shut down, but it seems that Danny hears something from it and it works out for her in the end.
And then, but there's this part with Mike.
Oh God, that was so cringe. That was so embarrassing.
It was, can we just talk about this?
I love him so much though.
I love Mike. Moral of the story.
He was so preciously awkward.
Oh yeah. That's my notes. Mike is adorable. I hate Gordon Ford so fucking much. That is literally what my notes say.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't understand this Gordon Ford bit. I don't get it. Help me understand.
No. It's like, it was like this like, I know the alpha male is not, but like he was trying to like, wave his stuff around just to show like how a big tough guy he is. He can knock his producer down a few notches and make him feel really small. And Gordon felt really big.
When he kept saying, official new producer, I just like, shut the motherfucker. I'm going to smack the shit out of you in a second, kid. I wanted to,
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It just proves that Gordon is a dick. He's a dick.
I
And
just
my-
can't. Is this? I'm like, is this
He
supposed
was a
to be?
dick in this episode.
I just don't. But I don't understand what they're trying to do with his character, y'all. Like, is Gordon?
I don't think
Ford-
it's consistent.
It makes
I
no
don't like
sense. It makes
his
no
reaction
sense.
and treatment of Mike. I was just like, that doesn't make sense. Like, he and Mike were joking about like Midge being a pirate and like thinking it was hilarious, and now like I don't know.
Okay. It seemed.
I don't know.
It seemed to me like what Gordon was trying to do was help Mike out by seeing, okay, he's nervous, so I'm gonna like have him on a little bit and like get his goat and like make fun of him and like just josh him,
Yeah.
But it didn't
That
come
makes
off.
sense.
That was
No.
clearly the intention behind him, because I don't think that Gordon Ford is doing this to be malicious to Mike. I don't think that that's it at all, because of the way that Mike was just like, oh, okay, guys, all right, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, it's funny. And so Gordon, instead of like letting him bomb, Gordon's like, I'm going to comment on how nervous he is and then get it all out in the open. And that's a lovely thing that's a lovely sentiment, right? But in practice, I fucking hate him. I hate it. I'm like, Gordon, stop. The way he acts like an obnoxious child. There was a kid that I went to school with when I was like, 7 years old. His name was Alan. I will never forget him. He had white blonde hair. He was the kid who would always disrupt class, who thought he was really funny. And the rest of us, like, every kid likes a good diversion from school. But he was so obnoxious and annoying that it was to the point where we were all just like, we're trying to learn, kid. Like, can you stop? Like, even the students didn't like it, He just was so, and he would do things like, pull my hair on the bus and like chase me around the playground. And I hated it because he had a crush on me, and so this is how he is with Midge. It's like, Gordon Ford is 5. This is my point, right? He's fucking 5. He's obnoxious as hell. I don't get
we
it.
clearly see that later on when somebody else wants to play with his shiny new toy.
Oh, yes. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you bringing that up, because I just seen him as being an asshole. I didn't think he was trying to help him out. But then again,
See, this is how it is too. Like, I like to be fair. I don't like to just hate on things and be like, no, I hate it, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I see the point. I see in the writing. I even see the intention in the acting. But in practice, I just fucking hate him.
Well, he gave Midge that look at the very end, like, hey, look at me. And I'm like, well, that to me just like felt like he was like, look what I'm doing. Haha. I'm so good.
And then Midge gives him a look back, and I don't understand where this is going. I just don't understand. I'm like, I kept, at the end of every scene with Gordon Ford in this episode, I just kept thinking, what are they doing with him? What am I supposed to think now? What does Gordon feel? Gordon, help me. It gave me such confusion because we're spending so much time on it. I'm like, okay, this is third from the last of all time, third from the last episode. This is how you're choosing to allocate your time. For what reason? I don't know. This is one thing that I'm hoping we're going to get answers on in the next episode. I'm not going to hold my breath.
I know.
I'm hoping it will pay off, just because of what I think happened with the
Jack Parr.
Thank you, the Jack Parr show. I think that, and I'm sure, I don't know if it's implied that Gordon did something to not get her on that show.
Sabotage.
I know. I feel like we should stick with this line of thinking and like go to the rest of the Gordon Ford stuff, shall we? And not like jump around too much.
Okay,
that's
a good idea.
But are we still gonna talk about Abe going to Ethan's?
We will get there. We will talk about it.
Let's get over the crappy Gordon shit, and then
the
delicious dish that is. Have some snack.
Yeah.
And then some
let's talk about the scene.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the scene with Danny Stevens in the writer's room and then Danny on Gordon Ford's show. Yeah.
Gosh. So Danny Stevens popping up in the writer's room. I feel like Alvin, a little like an excited kid when his dad comes home from work.
I know.
And he just like really wanted to impress his mentor. And
because he got him his first job. That's what he said, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That was so cute. And they were all kind of teasing him. And of course, like, he's there to plug his book, which is different from comedy. And Midge saves the day, like you had mentioned, Erica, where she starts saying, look, like, you want them to read about you. You want them to be interested in your life. You got to talk about your life. Like, just be real. And when you're real and it's interesting, you can find the funny. And that's precisely what Midge has done and what launched her into, this comedy career.
She's giving away all her secrets. This is like the golden secret.
She finds out her husband was sleeping with Penny Pan, and it's just like comedy gold resulted, and now she's has this, soon to be very fabulous career. And at first, when we see him on the Gordon Ford show, sitting down and talking about his parents and going into like his real life and details, I almost thought that he was gonna not give Midge credit for it. I was like, this asshole is gonna sit there and do what she said. It's like, yeah, this is what I planned on doing the whole time. I thought that would be a great tactic or something. So I was glad when he actually went through with it and gave her credit. And I will say,
Gordon Ford, please take note from Danny Stevens. Please take note.
Exactly.
Do this,
but
not what you do.
Moish and Shirley cracking up the entire time had me cracking up.
Yeah.
Like they might have been one of the most enjoyable parts of that show. But
another marvelous moment.
Obviously, Danny listens to Midge and kills with his segment on Gordon Ford, like does a great job. People are laughing and
this is why
relating to him.
This is why they say write what you know. Because it's true.
And it makes sense. And I felt a little bad for Alvin when they're finally at the bar and Danny is like, Midge, come here. And she's like, is he talking to me? Like, what's going on? And he basically kicks Alvin out of the table. So he has to stand there. And I don't know, like when he gave her that job offer, essentially like, come right for me. It'll be great. Like, and Gordon was just like, what are you doing? Like, gets territorial immediately. And he's like, she makes a good living here. Like, and he's like, well, I'll pay her more. Like that whole exchange, I went back and forth about how I felt about it. Cause I like that kind of possessiveness to the point where she's like an object.
When he said I found her, when he said I found, I was like, fuck you dickwad. Susie found her. Fuck off. You didn't even want to hire her.
Susie is the one who had to convince him.
Yeah, in a fucking strip club.
Put her on as a writer because his wife had, Hetty had been in the background like, you need a woman's perspective. But yeah, he was like, I found her. I was like, I do not like this possessive, territorial shit. And obviously, I think some of that was him projecting because of his romantic interest in Midge.
Oh, but totally. Projection. 100%. Like, he was jealous as hell. Remember when he was like, they let you in the writer's room? They don't let me in the writer's room. And he got his panties all in a twist.
Howdy. Yeah. If there is something that will turn me off in an instant, it's that pouting bullshit.
But you find Gordon Ford attractive. Kara.
Not in this one. In this episode, I was like, you ruined him. I was like, why is he acting like a petulant child? Like, this is not attractive. He was not charming.
He is 5 years old.
In this episode. It irritated me.
I was screaming at the TV, Midge, leave Gordon. Go with Danny Stevens. Why would you not rather write for a show starring women that is just as, if not more successful, rather than prop up fucking Gordon Ford, this unfunny, stuffy as hell little puppet mouthpiece dickwad, and make him look good, where he constantly hanging out in an office where he constantly objectifies you. Like, Midge, make a better choice. This is such a better offer. Like,
if they still want us to be like on board with Gordon being charming, like it did not play well.
Is that what they're going for?
Because that's the thing. I was like, I guess that's gone. Like, okay.
I mean, it was never there for me.
The way he acted, I was like, this is disgusting. And it would have been different, at least a little bit, if, he had acted calm, like if he's trying to poach her, like he could have been like, well, I don't know, like that's going to be up to Midge, but I like acted cool about it. And if he was concerned that he was, only interested in her because he wanted to sleep with her or something like that. He could have brought that up to her later instead of stomping his feet and essentially making it seem like, well, I want to sleep with her. This isn't fair. Like, if she goes
So
on your
obvious.
show, then I can't sleep with her. And the just like,
dude, he has no
macho
chill. He has
crap.
no chill.
No.
He cannot contain his freaking boner for it's just it's
No.
like he's 5 years old. Literally, he is let's like
This scene,
a high school boy. Like he's acting like a preteen, not even high school. Like as soon as he sees a guy, he's just projecting
shiny new toy.
Yeah, he's projecting his own feelings for Midge onto Danny, and as
Little
soon as-
tantrum.
Yeah, he immediately goes to, don't do it. He's hitting on you. He's hitting on you, Midge. Look at him hit on you.
This entire scene destroyed my attraction to Gordon Ford.
Good.
I will tell you that much. Like, as soon as he started pouting, I was like, oh, fuck this guy. This is not good. But I was trying to also, like, in my head, I was like, okay, let's say that they wanted us to see it from a different point of view. If they wanted us to see it from, okay, Gordon is finally realizing how talented Midge is. He's seen her multiple times now in person. He appreciates the talent he has. And now he's realizing that he could lose her, because they did not show us the next day him approaching Midge and going on about like some sort of protective bullshit about, he just wanted to sleep with you. Don't you see that? There was none of that.
No.
The next thing we saw was her getting a raise and immediately being matched to most of the males' salary. Right. But I just, if they were going for anything like that, I didn't get it.
No,
because
they did do it. And
it just, ugh.
And he had opportunity to approach her first. When she went to his office to ask him about the raise, he was cold towards her. He didn't even look up to her. Yep. He was like,
let's get into that scene.
Yeah.
I was saying one more thing that made me kind of lean into the possibility that they were trying to see it as like Gordon's protecting her or something like that, and he values her, is when Danny Stevens, like, it came off, I know it was a funny bit, but it came off kind of douchey when he said, Gordon starts posturing and kind of threatening him, and he's like, are you kidding me? I was a boxer in the army. And Gordon goes, you were a boxer in a movie about the army.
Yeah, that was so good. And
it was very funny.
When Danny Stevens said to Gordon Ford, I'm married, schmucko, I was like, yes!
Yeah.
My new favorite phrase.
I was like, so is Gordon. Like, what kind of married are you?
Yeah.
I hate that that's a question or a,
it's just so
a thing, but I don't know.
It's so typical of what what a child would do, is like you call someone else out for doing the thing that you're actually doing, and it's like, wow, just broadcast it to the whole world, and that's actually you schmucko.
Jeez.
Okay, so let's get into the other scene with the raise part.
Yes.
Because when Midge finally does talk to Gordon in his office, Lord.
So Midge goes up on the elevator. We cut to the scene where she's coming in. I don't know if it's the next day or it's later in that day. And there's this song playing, Bang on the Drums. And it is by Blossom Dearie. I've never heard of her before, but it's very like, I'm having like reminiscence of Mary Tyler Moore. She's in an elevator. It seems like the song is in her head. She walks out. She's gliding down the hallway, and then bam, runs into Mike. The music stops abrupt. So Man in Her Way. It was such a cool transition, and
so effective.
Very, very. And here's Mike just saying, oh, so you got a raise. And it was absolutely news to Midge. So the thing about this whole situation was, it's like Mike and Midge, like their relationship, it's like, it's so cute because they're married in real life. And I just like the back and forth. And, we have him questioning, why did she get this raise? And I'm wondering why he's questioning her. Like, does it have to do, like, does he think she slept with Gordon?
Yeah.
Like, just kind of questioning, like, why do you get a raise? But also the fact that not only did she get a raise, she's now making the same amount as the other writers, which all happen to be male. And actually
Jiminy Crickets. I loved Midge's response when she said Jiminy Crickets.
Oh, yeah.
Please. I need that whole line.
I want this whole exchange, like, printed out at some point.
I know.
Yes, it was so good. And the fact that, like, not only is she being paid now equally as her peers, but she's actually making more, who was it, than Ralph?
Yeah, actually, is it Ralph?
That was funny.
But
yeah, when she laid it out though so plainly, like women, don't tell all the women, or else everyone's going to want to make just as much as the men for doing the exact same amount of work, and then it'll be chaos,
and all of civilization will collapse. It'll be great.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But Mike was just like, "Oh yeah, you're right.
I can't have that." Yeah.
And then
I was like, "Damn it, Mike!"
And it's so funny because, like, I don't see this as villainous at all on Mike's part. It's just all that he knows to be true in the world is like shattered. Midge
so
is
naive.
like one of the first women to do this. It's so awesome. I love it.
It is. And then
she's breaking glass ceilings left and right.
And we should still continue to do that now because women are still not paid equally.
Yes, or given equal rights at workplaces and offices, and especially mothers. Yeah, it's not good. It's
still not good.
Yeah.
We really haven't come very far, y'all.
No,
it's kind of all just a nice little facade.
We're getting there a little bit better, So after her little meeting with Mike, the music starts up again, which I thought was amazing. It just was like, it cues right back on, and she marches right over to Gordon's office. And we talked about this, where she goes in, she's still being, like cute, and I don't know if you would call it flirtatious, but she has this relationship.
She's totally flirting with him. She is not saying no, and I have a problem.
But I don't know. I think not that she wants to sleep with him. She wants to be on his show. And I don't think she necessarily is using. I feel like she's like that with a lot of people, though. She was like that with George. She's just cute.
She's
silly,
naturally flirtatious.
Yes.
And also, this is the thing, guys. And like, I've been guilty of this myself. I cannot lie. And it's like, when you're in a male-dominated situation and you look a certain way and you know that will get a response, and you just need what you need right the fuck now. You don't have time to play games. You let some people talk to you or look at you or treat you or feel you up. Remember when Midge was like doing that thing with the painter, and she was saying to Benjamin, like, just let him touch my thigh a little bit. I can't feel it. I've got a girdle on. Like, I'm tough. It's fine. Like, she's willing to do what she has to do. And like, I've done it. I can't say that I haven't done it. It's just sad that like women have to resort to these measures, Right. But the thing is,
and if they do, they are blamed for it.
Right. Oh yeah.
And
especially if it goes bad.
It's just
right. It ain't no good. It's a bad cycle. But like, my problem with this whole thing is that Midge I feel that she's kind of leading him on. Am I wrong here?
She's definitely not shutting him down.
Right. She's not saying yes. I know she's not saying yes by any means, and she's saying, "This is what I want. Give it to me already. I'm gonna get this."
I think she kind of liked his reaction, like not liked it as in but she was just like,
she's using it to kind of fuel that urgency.
She's being fought over.
Right.
But who can blame her? Like, she got a raise out of it. Now maybe she's like, okay, like, put me on your show and I won't go.
It's easy
and right for him.
It's easy to be an outsider watching a show and telling a character stop doing this, but like, when you are the character, it's like, this is what happens. I know, I've been that character.
Well, and she says, like, she makes it clear. She's just like, I know when men are hitting on me. He was not hitting on me. And everybody, like, most women have that experience. Like, this guy's creepy. Like, I get bad vibes. Like, I know what his intentions might be, as opposed to, and it's not always the truth. You can't always tell, obviously.
Right.
But there are certain situations where it's just like a waving red flag in front of you. And I don't think Danny was doing that with her. Like, I think he appreciated her perspective and thought she was talented, and Midge is probably using that to her advantage, kind of play Gordon a little bit.
Right.
Yep.
And also,
why not?
And also, Jack Parr is his biggest competition. That is something that he doesn't want to hear, and he is visibly pissed off, but doesn't acknowledge it. Did you see his like weird smile he gave her like right before she left? Like, it was like he couldn't even hide his emotions at that point. Like, and that's what,
like, you're just dancing for me like a little monkey, aren't you? Like,
and
so pleased with himself.
Yeah, and I don't know it. Like after he like threw the papers and had his little tantrum after
like
she
a
left,
fucking
like
5-year-old.
Yeah, that was not attractive.
and it's like, did he like sabotage what happened? Did he call Jack Parr and say, "Look, this is my girl. Don't give her a chance," or did he like use different channels to tell his assistant, like, "No, do not,
Erica,
like, because
Erica.
we know."
I think it's possible.
You onto
because
something.
Midge-
You onto it.
But you know, the thing about, and I don't want to jump too far about, but like Midge, they didn't even show her set, which really pissed me off because I miss hearing her.
I miss.
They only
Hannah.
gave us the beginning, and that entire audience was like on fire, like just from her
Cackling.
there. It was like, you know, they woke up, and then to go that like this guy's like, I don't get it, like she's just a pretty face. It seems like there was something happened, and I don't think it's just that guy didn't get her. I think something was put in to make sure, and then the fact that he wanted James instead, like, oh no, well, we're not going to take this one, we're not going to take your girl, we're going to take this guy to kind of make up for, you know, not taking her. I feel like there's something in there, and I think Gordon has to do with it.
I could see that. Like, I was just like, this conniving little shit. Like, is he gonna try to sabotage her because he wants her to stick around?
See, okay,
Like,
this is,
I don't know.
This is what I'm saying. I feel like I've said it already, so I'm not going to belabor the point, but the silence that we had in this scene was weird. Like, I'm frustrated because we only have 2 episodes left, and the Gordon plot isn't going anywhere. They're showing so much Gordon, but they're not doing anything with it.
She's
It's
not
like,
moving yet.
Yeah.
If she does not end up on his show and like
In a
kill
hot
and have
second?
the best set ever
Right.
next episode, like, what are they doing?
The deal is off.
Because I feel like that's
I have 2 predictions.
that's what we're waiting for.
She's either going to be on that show. He's going to be like, all right, Midge, I'm finally going to let you go on, which I don't know. I don't even really want her on that show. Or
I know,
she's
at this
going to go to Danny Stevens and go be a sitcom writer and then get discovered that way. Like, I feel like
But how much time? Like,
we need to figure out, she's going to have her breakthrough, and it's probably going to be this episode coming up. But you're right.
because a lot of people have assumed that, and I think rightfully so, that her break is going to be appearing on Gordon Ford and killing or something like that. But at this point, I'm just like, okay, is she going to do it? Because we know she ends up at the 18 sellout nights at the Copa just a couple years after this. So what are we waiting on?
What are we waiting on?
I'm ready to see it.
Yeah, I know. I'm ready to get something going here. And I'm
Well,
ready to have some resolution with this Gordon
girl.
fucking Ford thing. Like the relationship to Midge, to give us so much of someone on my screen and to have no idea where this is going is like, it's kind of frustrating.
And
Just a little.
I had an idea. I feel like we're jumping kind of
Okay.
all over.
just a wee bit.
Just real quick, because this scene was kind of shortish anyway. When Susie is playing poker with the guys.
Oh, I was gonna say let's go
And,
there. Let's go there next.
Yeah, let's
Get
go
on
right
it.
in there.
Yeah.
We'll save the best
Mike-
for last.
Yeah.
It's like Mike approaches her and is like basically like, hey, I got Midge a shot at Jack Parr. Like, look at me go. And I was like, damn, Mike, that was some
We're doing a lot of
initiative.
favors.
That's nice. Yeah, I was like, that's kind of odd. But we know he now respects Susie and probably feels like he owes Susie, since Susie was responsible for getting George fired and Mike's new shiny promotion. So he's telling her all of this, and my thought was, okay, so he helps her get a shot at Jack Parr. Maybe at some point, if we're looking at her getting on Gordon Ford's show, if Gordon sabotaged her, I could see potentially Hetty coming back into the picture and either feeling bad about what she did to Susie, finally talking to Susie, and Susie being like, you know what you could do for me? Like, you could do me one favor, and basically have Hetty somehow convince Gordon to give Midge a shot and put her on the show or something like that.
Oh, I hope
which
so.
I don't think I would.
I think I would not like that.
Right? That's the thing. And I can't stop my brain.
I was going to say, I would have
happens
I
when
would
we're
have
watching
liked,
this.
I would have liked that if it happened right after
Before?
Susie episode, before Gordon became a big,
Yeah,
raging jerk.
right. Should
I'm starting to have a hard time, like, feeling like they're not going to follow up on these things that they've introduced us
Yeah,
to. Like,
I know.
I wanted so much more from Susie and Hetty, and now I'm like, well, was that it? Like, are we not?
I know.
Are we not
And
gonna get any
this
more?
episode with Susie, I felt like she was kind of in her own show. I'll get there when I talk about Susie stuff. But
I also love that Susie is playing cards with the guys, and that there is a little throwback about how much she couldn't stand Shy's manager. That made me happy. But we see that she and Mike are still friends into the 90s. They obviously have a good working relationship, and it wouldn't surprise me if Mike was responsible for getting Midge out there. He takes her to Jack Parr. But I don't know. If we don't see her somehow get on the Gordon Ford show in the next episode, and
well, I don't even know if it's going to happen at this point because, and I don't know why Susie was so insistent that Midge has to get on the Gordon Ford show. Like when
on that show,
yeah,
like why?
When Mike suggested the Jack Parr showcase, Susie was really like, I don't want to do that though. Like I want her to be.
Yeah.
Can you just make Gordon Ford happen?
Gordon's.
Yeah, like she was like, that's the whole reason that we're there. She was like, I'm counting on Gordon Ford, and he was like, well, you can count on Jack Parr. Like, what's wrong with that? Like, just shift your focus a little. And Susie really didn't want to budge, and I'm like, okay, Susie, you're supposed to be a good manager though. Like, this is not good managering.
Oh, speaking of Susie, well, that's a big jump too. I was like, Susie being a good manager.
Yeah, right. Okay, okay. Before we get into that whole thing, though, I'll just say it now that I felt like Susie's. I don't know what's going on in Susie's mind because, like every time we saw her in this episode, I felt like she was in a different show, and I hate how disconnected Midge and Susie feel. Yeah, like they don't feel like a team anymore at all. Even though Susie, her whole point of this whole episode was like going to bat for Midge. This is my girl. It's her moment. It's her moment. Like give her chance. I felt like Susie, because that whole entire plot line, like when last we saw Susie, she was on the streets yelling at Hetty. More of that, please. We all want more of that. And like what you were saying, I don't know if we're ever going to get it. And I'm starting to lose faith that we will. But this episode, Susie felt like a plot device where we got no character development from her, aside from like how she wouldn't let James do the Jack Parr gig. And the problem
she's
is
relaying information.
Right. Yeah. She's like servicing the plot and not, and it's almost out of character for Susie.
Yeah.
It does. So it's like we're sacrificing character integrity for this weird like plot devicey thing. I don't know.
Like what? We see them interact barely at all. Like we see Susie tell Midge about Jack Parr at the Wolford, and I was just like, yes, more interaction, please. And then there still wasn't that much.
Right.
And Midge kind of, agrees and is talked into it eventually. She's not thrilled. And then we see Susie kind of talking to her before and a little bit after her set. And, Jade, you've brought it up multiple times in the last couple of episodes. Like, we're just not getting a lot of Midge and Susie time, and their chemistry together and their banter back and forth and their friendship was one of the most enjoyable aspects of the show. And now we have 2 episodes.
And it's really
left.
It's really how they're selling this show too. Even still in promotional stuff and interviews, people are like
womance
the womance, and these 2 actors are saying, and you're getting so much of that womance this season, and I'm like,
it's more like it's like a separation.
Yeah. It's really, and you know what's really funny, guys? We're getting so much Gordon Ford, and I hate
so
it.
much.
Man, we really sound like a bunch of fucking complainers. Like I'm sorry. This is how I feel. Like, and it's not that I don't like this show. It's like I love it. I still love this show. I still loved this episode. I really did. But when you start to dig into it, it starts to kind of come unglued a little, And it can't be, it's not lost on me that like the one thing we're getting so much of is the one thing that I kind of hate, which is like so much Gordon Ford. And yet at the same time, I still don't know what to make of it, which is crazy.
No.
Hopefully.
It was an interesting one. Like, we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but this felt like an older episode of the show. Like, it just almost felt slightly out of place. And I think inevitably any episode that aired after last week's Testarosteal, like, come on, like that's gonna be hard to
people have
or
said
live up
that
to.
It felt like a season finale. It was that good, and it's true.
Yeah,
it was.
It really did. And then this one, I was just like, okay, so we now know that Rose is sick somehow and is probably not going to make it. But what else really of significance did we learn? We already knew Esther was a genius.
Mm-hmm. Well, we knew when.
Where's Lenny Bruce?
Yeah, well, Lenny Bruce. Remember, I said back then, I'm like, I felt like that might be the last time we see him, and
I don't want to believe that, but I'm worried you're right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it like a casket or a flashback. I would like it to be another encounter.
I do have to say, though, one thing. Okay, so this whole scene at the Wolford, I was really happy to see it. I love that they got one more Wolford in there. And you know what it reminded me of?
That was nice.
You know what it reminded me of? When they showed up at the Wolford and Midge was like, I'm going to go on in a minute. I'm still working here. I cracked up because this is a Gilmore Girls thing.
Oh, yeah.
Kara, do you remember on the or my listeners, I'm sure you're like, yes, talk about this, because it was hilariously like plotted that Rory was working for a newspaper. And she like so obnoxiously got her way into this newspaper job. And any Gilmore Girls fan will like remember like the office sit-in when she was like, I'm not leaving till you give me a job. And she was like privileged Rory.
That was so uncomfortable.
It was so uncomfortable. So, you know, she like gets this job at the newspaper, and then the next season happens, and like it's the start of a new season, and a couple of episodes in, she's so busy with all her college stuff, and it's like, well, surely she's just not working at the newspaper anymore, and like they've just kind of trailed off and like forgot to say, oh yeah, she stopped working there. And I thought that that's the same thing that happened at the Wolford. Like, how can Rory and Midge have like all these hours in the world to work at these jobs, and then all of a sudden in the Gilmore Girls it came up like Rory's working at the paper, and she mentioned something about like going to that job, and it's like the unreality of this, like her still being able to do all that she does at like Yale, and all her extra things, and all her relationships and her boyfriends, and then she's still working at this fucking paper job. It was so fake. And like, this is how the Wolford gig felt to me, was like, so let me get this straight.
Oh, yeah.
So let me get this straight. Midge is like taking care of everyone in her house and mothering and doing all that stuff and working these long hours every day in the writer's room, and then she's still and doing all these gigs. I mean, we saw she was falling asleep, right? Like standing up. She was just, but she's still got the Wolford job. I'm like, why? It was funny though.
It was kind of random. I was like, oh, okay, well, we're back. Like, yeah, that's good to know.
What kind of animal do you think was in the ceiling?
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. A rat.
That was so funny. They're like, definitely not a cat.
But